Hi everyone, Brian McNichols here from TouringPlans.com. Trying to fix my hair as I do this because I didn't shave or anything before I went on camera because laziness, you know. We are here, Angela will be joining me any minute now, and we are here to continue our discussion about the Harry Potter films. This week we'll really get into it. Last week we did Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which maybe we shouldn't have included that one, honestly, because there's no accompanying book. There's really no theme park. Heidi, there's really no accompanying theme park stuff with Fantastic Beasts quite yet. So it was really more of a movie review, and neither of us really loved the movie. But this week we're starting with something that is going to be much more exciting. This is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The book and the movie were both called that. The book, of course, was... hold on, I'm trying to add Angela in here. Of course, the book was referred to as Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in its original
Oh,
form in England. Hi, Angela. How are you?
I'm I'm good. I'm very
And
tired.
Angela
For
and I
those
have
of you,
both had some sick family members. Angela's little boy has a pretty bad flu, right?
sorry, sorry
Oh,
about that.
Angela, you froze a little bit there.
I know. I just got a phone call from Connecticut. I don't know anyone in
Oh,
Connecticut.
yeah, I get random state phone calls to my cell phone all the time. It
I
just,
know. I even like turned off cellular so that wouldn't happen, but I
mm.
guess I pushed the wrong button. Yes, Brian and I have had very sick families. My son has been sick with the stomach flu for 5 days. We have had 2 visits to the ER, one to the doctor. We're in the ER till midnight last night getting fluids, so coffee
So,
today.
yeah, I was
But
gonna
he's
say.
napping. My husband's watching him. So I am happy to talk Harry Potter today. And Brian, as much as I teased you on Twitter, I did look for my stuffed owl and I could not find him anywhere.
Oh, I do. I have props today and everything. It's gonna be fun. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I'm trying to bring up the comment stream on here so that I can see it more easily than on
Yes.
the phone. What I was kind of explaining. We are recording this live on Facebook. People watching right now obviously know that. Anybody watching
Mhm.
later on YouTube or later on Facebook, we have posted the schedule that we're going to follow from here on out. It's going to be every 2 weeks, partially so that we make sure we have time to actually watch the movies and do whatever research we need to, and partially so we can still do our normal theme park chats in between, hopefully. Um, but this one's where it really starts to get fun because we can actually talk about the theme parks. We can
Mhm.
talk about the books. We can get really, really nerdy on stuff. We are still going to try very hard not to spoil ahead at all. So if anyone is following along with these that is unfamiliar with the books or the movies and is watching them with us, we won't ruin anything in the future for you. Although I will be pointing out lots of stuff that will be important later. I noticed as I was rewatching this how much track they lay in this one for things that come down the road.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even know it because you're just watching it for the first time and you're like, oh, they're explaining things, blah, blah, blah. But then when you
Yeah.
rewatch it, you're like, oh my gosh, remember this. Like my husband, he has never been a Harry Potter or really, like I mentioned before, a saga fan except for Star Wars of
Hmm.
any kind. So that means Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, all that stuff. So when he's sitting down watching this with me, he's like, what am I watching? What is this? And I'm like, remember this part. This is important later. And he's like, Angela, that makes you think I'm actually gonna watch the rest of these with you, and I'm not. So I'm like, well, just remember anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and he's not going to Universal with you this
he's
summer, right?
not.
Yeah, so then it's hard to talk him into it then, I guess. I was just say if he
Someday,
was
I
if he
think.
was going with you, then you could at least say, "Oh, well, no, this will be important." But
I know I can at least like make him pretend to care, but no. He did ask a couple questions. He's like, "Well, who's that guy? Is he bad?" Like I'm like, "Oh, that's Professor Snape." He's like, "Well, why is he
oh,
doing
that's
this?"
a tough question.
I
Um,
know, and I'm like, "Well, you have to understand the story, but I can't tell you yet because that's later."
well, and that's
And he's like,
it's
"Well, I'm not gonna watch it, so
excuse me.
I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm not giving
It's
any
funny
spoilers."
before I get into, I'm going to go through a quick plot summary. Well, maybe not too quick because as I was writing it out, I realized this is a more complicated plot than Fantastic
Mm-hmm.
Beasts, which I found a little odd. But um, after we decided to do this, one of the reasons I wanted to do it was because you're going to be at Universal, I believe, in July. So, right. So like right in the middle of when we're doing this,
Yeah.
I'm going to be going to Universal in mid-August, which is kind of what I timed these out for, before Angela agreed to do it with me. Since we decided to do this, and then my kids have decided to start watching them. So we're up to the third movie, The Prisoner of Azkaban, right now with the kids. So I've actually seen like at least the first two several times in the last few weeks, which is
Oh, I
weird
should
because
watch.
I hadn't watched them at all in years. That's why I wanted to rewatch these. But partially, because I want to do, we're both going to do videos when we're there. And I would like to do, I did kind of an overview of Diagon Alley last time, and I would like to do a more detailed, nerdier look at it. So I kind of wanted to see the movies. And I reread the books all the time. I'm on the 7th book right now on my normal yearly reread. And after I finish that, I think I'm going to go back and try to read the books in between watching the movies just for a refresher. Um, but yeah, so all right, let me what we're gonna do here. I'm gonna just recap the plot real quick, as quickly as I can, and then we'll kind of go back and talk about details of it. At least I will talk a little bit about how it differs from the book. We'll talk about. Oh, go
While
ahead.
Brian does the summary, I want you to put your favorite characters in the comments and tell me why. Your favorite characters from the first book, or the first movie, and say why. And then I want to read through those too.
Yeah. Yeah. And any comments or questions any of you have that are watching this live, feel free to post them. We will get to those towards the end. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and leave comments below, and we will go back and answer those also, not live, of course, but in the comments.
Later.
So yeah, and then after we go through the plot, we'll go back and we'll talk about some things, and a lot of stuff from this movie shows up in the theme parks, so that will probably be a longer section. We'll kind of figure out how we're doing these as they go. I imagine this one will be the longest theme park part because so much was introduced here. But okay, so I kind of wrote out this plot recap myself, from memory. Which
should I take a nap, Brian? Should I get my sleep?
No, I skip really, really big sections, especially towards the end. So okay. Starts off, we have the at the time mysterious professors Dumbledore and McGonagall are delivered a baby by a very large man named Hagrid. They leave the baby on a doorstep. 10 years later, and that's pretty much how it goes. This boy, of course, is Harry Potter. He is living in a cupboard under the stairs of his boring and terrified to be unusual aunt, uncle, and cousin, who are the Dursleys. It is his Aunt Petunia is his mother's sister, which will be important way down the line. Strange things, of course, keep happening to Harry. And anytime he is afraid or angry, his aunt and uncle do not react to this well, and they treat him very poorly in general. One day he gets a letter from Hogwarts, which he is mysterious at the time to all of us, and he keeps getting letters, and his uncle Vernon keeps getting increasingly crazier about the letters, eventually taking them to a shack in the middle of a lake in a rainstorm. In the book, this is actually a fairly long section where they drive to a hotel and everything, but this happens to coincide with Harry's 11th birthday, which is important because 11 is when you start Hogwarts. That's why he's getting the letters. Hagrid, the half giant, wait, I guess that's kind of a spoiler. He's a half giant. It's really not that hard to figure out. He breaks into this shack, tells Harry, you're a wizard, Harry, and a thumping good one, I bet. And gives us kind of an overview of Hogwarts. We'll get to all that later. Explains to him that his parents were not killed in a car crash, as his aunt and uncle told him. They were murdered by the most evil wizard of all time, Voldemort, who tried to kill Harry as well. The curse backfired. It destroyed Voldemort, although spoilers, didn't really destroy him. That's not too far ahead of spoiler. We'll find that out later this movie. And it gave Harry his distinctive lightning bolt scar. In the books, it's right in the middle of his head. In the movies, it's kind of over his one eyebrow. Not really important. Hagrid then takes Harry to buy magical school items, which introduces him to Diagon Alley, a magical area of London, which I only mentioned because we will talk extensively about that later. He makes his way onto the Hogwarts Express, the magical train that leaves from London to Hogwarts. We will talk more about that later as well. On the train, he befriends Ron Weasley and meets Hermione Granger, who are extremely important to the story. They are his best friends and are with him almost all the way through all the books and films. We get to the castle, we learn about classes, we learn about all the oddities of the school, we meet the potions professor, Severus Snape, who is in all of the stories and hates Harry for a reason that we don't know yet. And to skip way ahead, they find out about the Sorcerer's Stone, a magical object that can create the elixir of life, which gives the drinker immortality. During an encounter in the Forbidden Forest, which is next to Hogwarts and forbidden to students, even though they end up in there a lot, Harry comes upon a dark creature drinking the blood of a unicorn. It gets a little dark in here. Finds out that it is some form of Voldemort, who wants the Sorcerer's Stone to return to power. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, well, mostly Harry and Ron, assume Severus Snape is the one helping Voldemort because he's mean to them. And they decide to go after the stone themselves. Turns out it was the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, Quirrell, who I don't think they ever give a first name. I don't remember it anyway. He is possessed by the spirit of Voldemort, and they stop him. So that is the really, really fast version of it. I focused a little more on the stuff that I know we're going to talk about next.
I'm officially making you the summarizer for this entire chat series because that was very solid.
I thought about actually trying to do it straight off the dome, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to miss stuff. So I decided to write it down as I was skimming through the movie.
No, I'd like to go to some of the comments because I really wish that you could directly reply during a live chat, and you can't. And I wish you could because I wanted to do that while you were talking. Danya's husband doesn't care for the books. I feel you, Danya. It's very sad. My husband didn't care about Disney at all, and I finally got him not hooked, but at least he somewhat cares now. So, like, there's still hope. Just keep pushing and nagging. You may or may not get there, 8 years or 9 years down the line. It's slowly, he's coming around. Hello, Patty. And Doso or Dasso? Sarah likes Hagrid. Oh, I have such a soft spot for Hagrid. He is truly the definition of a gentle giant. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's how J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books, I truly think that's like how she thought, like what she created him in that image. He's just so sweet, and he takes in these creatures who are terrifying, but he somehow makes pets out of them. He's so sweet. He wears his heart on his sleeve. I could talk about Hagrid forever. I think he might actually be my favorite character now that I've blabbed about him so much. I just love him. Dee's favorite character is Professor McGonagall, and Danya agrees. She's a very BA. She's just like a solid witch, and you don't mess with her at all. Same with Molly Weasley, who is Ron's mom. You don't mess with them. Hailey loves Hermione, which, like Brian said, is Harry's best friend, who's a girl. Ron is Harry's best guy friend. And she's very much a know-it-all, but it's very deserved. Like, she's one of those people where she gets the title of know-it-all because she really does know everything. And you can't really be annoyed with her because she does know everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if Hermione's my favorite character, but she's probably the most important one because Harry would literally have not done anything if it wasn't for her.
No, seriously. She, like, runs the show. She does.
Yeah.
And
Ron,
yeah.
Yeah, Ron is kind of moral support most of the time.
Ron, like, has this occasionally, but, like, Hermione runs the show. Her and Harry do, and then Ron's like definitely a solid emotional support assist with the jokes. He's like the comedic relief. I'm gonna get through some other comments, and then we'll get more into how it compares to the book, and maybe talk about how it compares to the theme park. Brian,
a lot of stuff about the theme park I have. Yeah, so.
Jonathan said, how bad that Disney did not come to the agreement with J.K. Rowling to do the park. Yeah,
for those who don't know the story, and I can't remember which episode. I know Jim Hill has talked about this on the Unofficial Guide Disney Dish podcast with he and Len Testa. But basically J.K. Rowling was in talks with Disney to do Harry Potter themed areas at Disney World, and she wanted to do it very, very authentically, and Disney wanted to do it from a theme park perspective, meaning wider walking paths, bigger areas, bigger shops, not as intimate. And she eventually said no and went to Universal, who said, yeah, whatever you want, and which worked out great for honestly probably everyone,
Yeah.
because it wouldn't, if Disney got their way, it wouldn't have been as good. Now and now the Pandora, World of Avatar at Animal Kingdom, and the upcoming Star Wars land have learned a lot from the way Universal did Harry Potter, and learned
Mhm.
the ways that you can do a more intimate setting like that and still make it usable for a theme park, which never really would have happened. So I'm actually kind of glad that it ended up at Universal. I think the Harry Potter or the Wizarding Worlds there ended up better for it. And in turn, Disney is now trying to battle against that aesthetic, which is good for everyone. I mean, they're spending a fortune on Star Wars Land, which makes me excited about that. So, and
Sarah,
we'll talk more about the theme park stuff as we get there,
yeah.
because we do get to see Diagon Alley in this movie, which is one of the bigger things at Wizarding World.
Sarah even brought up, I've never been to Universal, but we'll go because of the Wizarding World of Harry
Yeah,
Potter. I'm
100%
pretty
worth
much,
it. Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I've never really had a huge interest in Universal
Hmm.
because I'm so hardcore Disney, but I'm also very hardcore Harry Potter. So I didn't really have an interest in it until Harry Potter World, which is not what it's called, but it's what I call it,
Yeah. Yeah.
opened, and now I'm going finally, and I'm going to do both sides or both parks in one
Hmm.
day. Can't wait. So excited. And Danya, this made me laugh. Can I bring up the fact that Harry is the youngest house seeker in a century, but he can't catch a letter out of thin air when there are hundreds flying around him? It's true. There's literally
Yeah,
a million letters, and he
I
can't
think
even
he
catch one.
does. I don't remember the scene in
He
the
does
movie.
grab
He
one
does
from
catch
Lily.
one at least,
He
and in the
does.
book, and his uncle has to like wrestle it from him,
Yeah.
basically.
He like tackles
Um,
him.
so yeah, I mean, but
He does get
yeah,
one.
there's a lot of strain. After the first time when he tries to open the letter and they catch him, it seems like it's really not that hard just to run outside and open the letter quick and hide it, whatever you have to do. I don't
Or
know.
like
I feel
steal
like
a
he could have figured
shirt.
something out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go back to the cupboard. That's what I would have done. I would have like stuck it under my shirt, gone back to my cupboard, been like really nonchalant about it, like, oh, I'm just gonna go to sleep, and then read the letter. That's what I would have done. But like Harry, I think he's just excited because he never gets mail in his whole life. So kind of jumped the gun a little bit, understandably
and
so.
and Leslie out here in this chat spoiling everybody about Snape, but I'm gonna have a lot to say. Just to warn you, I don't particularly like Snape, and I will have a lot to say about him when we get to the end of this movie
Oh,
watch.
it's
That
such
I
a
I
good
just
hashtag though.
I just can't.
I want to put that as
Although
a
yeah, I
hashtag.
agree with the hashtag Rickman rocks. Alan Rickman is fantastic. Was fantastic. Um, and I love his portrayal of Snape. I love the character of Snape.
He's
But
perfect.
I don't.
Perfect actor.
I will have a lot to say about Snape when we get to the end of this.
And really, just all of the actors in general, I thought were perfect fits for the
Yeah,
characters that were
the
chosen. They
the
really were.
children, the children. Some of them aren't great actors. Most of them get good to great towards the end of the series,
Yeah.
but they were cast as like 11, 12-year olds. Like that's just, and some of
Harry,
them have never
though,
acted before.
yeah, Harry
So
Daniel
it's,
Radcliffe, he was good right away. I was watching his acting.
yeah, see, I
He was,
disagree.
he was
There are
good.
parts, especially in the second and third movies, there are line readings and parts that are just that
But when but when you
make me
compare him,
cringe.
Brian, to Emma Watson and even
Hmm.
what Rupert Grint,
Rupert Grint,
he's
I think,
solid.
nailed it from the beginning. I think he was pretty good from the start.
His
Emma
facial
Watson,
expressions are so good.
yeah, Emma Watson is fine. Harry, I think, gets real like Daniel Radcliffe. I think as Harry, I think gets really good towards the end. In the beginning, he's a little, but I mean, they're they are child actors, and they're asked to carry huge loads. I mean, these are characters that were really, really
Yeah,
well
Ryan, they're
known.
kids. Give them a break.
So yeah, well, that's why I kind of started off saying that, because I'm not really going to. There's one line reading in Chamber of Secrets and one in Prisoner of Azkaban, both Harrys, that I will bring up. But the rest of it, for the most part, but the adults are awesome. Are just they considering these were characters that already were known, and a lot of people had pictures in their heads of them, that they were so successful at doing it. Richard Harris plays Dumbledore in this. I don't love the way he played Dumbledore. He plays him more as kind of the kindly old man, and in the books, Dumbledore is more of an eccentric kind of.
Couple books.
Yeah. But even in the first book, like he has them all sing this is in the book, not in the movie. He has them all sing this Hogwarts song, and lets them do it.
Weird words at the beginning.
Yeah, and then, so he comes across as kind of a weird, eccentric dude, which Richard Harris doesn't really put into it. But that's quibbling. Now Richard Harris, this, looking ahead, this isn't really a spoiler because it doesn't have to do with the character. Richard Harris only plays Dumbledore in the first two movies, and then sadly the actor passed away, and Michael Gambon replaced him, which we'll talk about. At least I will talk about how Michael Gambon played him later. I think that has very high peaks and very low valleys, the way Michael Gambon played him. But McGonagall is perfect. Snape is perfect. Hagrid, I love. I'm trying to think of which one. Even some of the side characters. Ollivander, who we meet at
Flitwick, and I'm too.
Flitwick Warwick Davis as Flitwick. The guy who plays Ollivander is the right amount of creepy. Who I will talk about. All right, so I'm going to try to organize this as much as I can. So,
I have one more thought about the movie,
go for it.
and then we can talk about the theme park. Okay?
Well, I'm going to go through kind of chronologically from the movie and talk about everything like as we hit it a little bit, so that we're is my goal anyway. We'll see how that works out.
Okay. Well, the movie as a whole, I thought was pretty short when you compare it to the rest of the films, which if you haven't seen the films, we will get to. And also, I thought that it was very, going along with the short theme, very condensed. When you, when you read the book, obviously it's a lot more explained, not as summarized. It seemed like the movie was just clips of little things that were happening and not very explained. And you would have had to read the book to kind of get a lot of it.
That is one of my ongoing criticisms of the movies in general. But the two Christopher Columbus was the director of the first two movies. And the third movie is actually directed by an Academy Award winner, not for the Harry Potter movie. It's Alfonso Cuarón who won for Gravity. But especially the first two movies, I feel like that's exactly what it is. I don't know off the top of my head who wrote the screenplay, but it is kind of a highlights version of the books, which if you've read the books is fine. You don't need the backstory. But if you haven't, which, a lot of people hadn't, at least at the time, it did leave out some things. The first movie, I don't think is as bad. The second, Chamber of Secrets, I think has some things that worry me a little bit more, that they shortened very by quite a lot. The most noticeable speed up in this one is actually all the parts before Harry finds out he's a wizard. In the book, that goes on for quite a while. It's at least 2 or 3 chapters.
5 minutes.
Yeah, and I actually don't mind that. In the first, especially the first 3 books, they have pretty long sections where Harry's at the Dursleys and is miserable and hates it and just wants to get back. And I don't find those that enjoyable on rereads. The first time, I don't remember it bothering me, but rereading it, I tend to really skip through a lot of that because it's background information, but not necessarily pivotal to the plot. In the first book, a lot of the time where Harry's at home is just it's all set up to make you even more happy for
Sorry
him
for him.
when he finds out that he's, more than what he thought he was, kind of.
Hmm.
So I actually don't mind that clip. One of the things they do also clip out, which again probably isn't a big deal, but it's in the books. Hermione is a lot more, and this isn't the right word, but I can't think of a better one, but annoying in the beginning of the first book.
Hmm.
She's very, very pushy and know-it-all-y and correcting everyone all the time.
Yeah,
And
they set
they,
her up to look a
yeah,
lot more irritating
yeah.
than she is in the movie.
And they do a little bit of it, especially when they first meet her on the Hogwarts Express. But the rest of it isn't really like that in the movie. In the book, it's very much I like, to the point where Ron says some pretty nasty things about her in the book, like
Hmm.
not swear words or anything like that.
But he just like
But
does not like her at all.
yeah, and it's not until the scene later where they fight the troll that they actually become friends in the book, which is where they kind of become best friends in the movie, but they're
Yep.
seemingly more friendly in the movie. Like, she's with them all the time in the movie, even leading up to that, and that's not how it is in the book. In the book, Ron and Harry are immediately best friends, and Hermione is just kind of an annoyance that has no friends and is just near them until later when and then Hermione actually starts, breaking some rules, especially going into the second book and things like that.
Hmm.
But they don't really cover any of that in the movie. It's just she's just kind of there, and they're friendly. But for a movie, that's fine. At least that's one I understand. Like, okay, we don't need all this runway. We can just make it so she meets them, and now they're all friends. And
I am
next,
curious to hear what your favorite scenes in either the book or the movie are or is. I want to know what your favorite scenes are.
I'm not
And
sure what
I
mine
also
would be.
want to know, I want you to leave those in the comments. And I want you to tell me if there's a certain scene in the book that you wish they would have included in the movie. I want to know your thoughts. I see that some of you are already kind of saying, like you think that, like Jonathan thinks the fourth movie is his favorite as far as
Mm-hmm.
production and direction. Harley's saying that when she's reading Goblet of Fire, she always just skips until they're at Hogwarts, and
Oh,
that's
you can't. Not that.
exactly true.
The Quidditch World Cup is awesome in that one. Come on. Well, we'll get to it.
But it's those kind of things, like I was rereading the first book, gosh, probably a year ago because I don't have time to read right now. But I was just kind of like, okay, like it's so much description, and when you've read the book so many times, you kind of already know the backstory, and it's like, okay, well, let's just wait till they're at Hogwarts now. But I wanted to show you guys because this is so exciting. I studied abroad in England in 2010. And so I went into a used bookshop, and I found the British version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, that's
So
backwards. But yeah,
I just wanted to show. Oh, it is backwards,
because of
isn't it?
the
Well,
screen
this is the
switch. Yeah.
backwards version. I have the forwards version right here. But I mean, those of you from the UK, this was like, the book that you
Yeah.
read. But for me, in
And
the US, this is what we see. Again, the forwards version.
I forgot I was going to grab my DVD to hold up in the beginning, and I forgot. I grabbed all my other props, which I just haven't gotten to yet. But
I did try to read this, thinking like, oh, I lived in England for 4 months. I can, follow along with the change in lingo. I learned enough of it. No, it's very tricky.
Is it really? See, I assumed that
mean,
they left most of it the same, except for.
I mean, it's like our slang. Our slang that we speak. It's just those differences. Like,
see, now I want
to. We say silverware for forks, knives, and spoons. Mm-hmm. They say cutlery. Those kind of differences.
See, I feel like I watch a lot of English soccer, so football. So I'm curious how well I get. But that's one of the title change. Speaking of that, because it was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the original print, and then it was changed into Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone later, which is what the movie is called. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Why would they? Like, it doesn't seem like that important a change, other than they assumed Americans wouldn't be able to think of philosophers as wizards, but we're suspending disbelief for a lot of this. I'm not sure why that one would be.
Well, we study philosophy, in college and stuff, and we think of it as something completely different than sorcerer.
Well, yeah, but they could it's a magical object. If it was called the Philosopher's Stone, I'm not sure it would have been that confusing, but.
I guess we would have figured it out Or maybe they thought, I don't know, maybe they thought it would have been too confusing for us, and we would have been reading the whole book being like, this isn't about philosophy.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe
maybe that's
being
the
the first book,
problem.
they wanted to get across that it was magical and not, some philosophy textbook or something. I don't know.
But
That is
they do
interesting.
have, I don't know if the new DVDs are like this because I haven't looked at the extras. But when I got the very first DVD, when like DVDs were newer and it
Mm-hmm.
came with a bunch of extras, did you guys have this where it came with a bunch of games and it came with this really cool game? It was like you got to go through the three, like to get to the Sorcerer's Stone. It was this game on the DVD where you got to like play the potions game that's in the book but not in the movie.
Yeah.
You do like the potions quiz, you had to pick the right one, and it gave you like this poem that you had to figure out which one to drink on the DVD.
Hmm.
Did you guys play that one? Let me
I
know.
don't
And you
think
had to
so.
pick the right key.
I have the DVD, but I don't think I've ever been through the extras on it, honestly.
This was the very first DVD when the movie came out.
Yeah, mine is like a old school DVD, so it might be on there.
I think your kids would love it if it's
Yeah.
the official one. It's really, really cool.
Huh.
Go check it out.
Yeah,
okay, Brian.
all right.
Let's go back to what you want to talk about. I derailed you enough.
So, oh no, that's fine. This is all about being derailed. So after Harry finds out he's a wizard, he goes to Diagon Alley. So might as well stop here for quite a while and talk about the theme parks because the entire section in Universal Studios Florida is based on Diagon Alley, which is first seen in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We will see it again later. I don't remember. I know in the seventh movie, I believe, in the seventh book, when the Weasleys actually have a store in there. I know we will see it there, but and that one is more accurate to the one you see in Universal Studios Florida. It's the Diagon Alley there takes place kind of around halfway through the seventh book, about the split of where the movies are, kind of probably a little bit into the eighth movie, which we'll have to talk about later. But a lot of it looks the same. Now, I was actually surprised. And this part, I'll probably be talking a little bit more because Angela hasn't seen Diagon Alley in the theme park yet. But she will be asking questions, as you will be below, that I can answer. It might help jog my memory. I was going to say it's been a while since I've been there, but what month is this? May. It's literally been 4 months since I've been there, so it really hasn't been that long.
Wow.
No, I was there in January. But the Diagon Alley in the movie, I thought, looked a little bit more ramshackle than it does in Universal Studios. It reminded me actually a little bit more of the Hogsmeade section that is in Islands of Adventure. Now, Hogsmeade itself, we won't actually see in the movies until the third one, and then it's actually kind of covered in snow, so it's a little bit harder to see details. But for instance, there's one part where Harry and Hagrid walk by that there's a bunch of cauldrons stacked on top of each other. And unless my memory is completely wrong, I believe you see that in the Hogsmeade in Islands of Adventure. I think what it was just because that was the first one that was built, and they took a lot of bits and pieces of visuals from the movies and put them into that without necessarily thinking they would be opening up the Diagon Alley section. For instance, Ollivander's, which is firmly in Diagon Alley and all forms of Harry Potter media, is actually both in Diagon Alley and in Hogsmeade in Islands of Adventure. They did it because they just wanted to do the show where you could get your wand selected for you. So they put it in Hogsmeade, even though it should have been in Diagon Alley, and it is now. It's in both. Yes, Angela, you have a question?
Okay. I was looking at the comments, and there's a couple questions, and so if you answer them, I was looking
Absolutely.
at comments.
Yeah.
The first one is, are the buildings kind of tilted at Universal like they look like in the movie? Okay.
Yes, especially Gringotts, the bank. I mean, the Gringotts in the Sorcerer's Stone movie, and all the movies where you see it, where it kind of starts off this way and then takes like a 45-degree turn this way. It looks exactly like that in Diagon Alley. Exactly. Except that there's a dragon on top of it, which That's part of the
Wait,
8th movie.
why are you more excited about the tilted buildings than the dragon on top of the building?
Well, it's because that's because the dragon is from the 7th book, 8th movie, I believe. So that's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. The building itself is shown in this movie. So
okay, second question: is there a Knockturn alley?
there is a Knockturn alley, actually.
Which we're going to talk about in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Knockturn alley we don't see until, when does Harry get dragged in there? The sixth book, I believe. I believe that is Half-Blood Prince.
No,
yes, it is, because
no,
that's where
Diagon alley with the flu powder.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's the 6th movie.
No, no, because they had to go. No, it was. I think it was the next book.
Is it? Is it already in?
Because he was.
Oh,
young.
you're right. You're right. Yeah. You're right. It is. It's
Because he says it's super weird, and I remember his face, and he looked really young.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's one of the next two. I was thinking of a different part that happens.
I think it's Chamber of Secrets
later.
It might be.
It might be. Yeah, okay. Quite a few people now are confirming it is the 2nd book. Okay. Oh, good. So yeah, in 2 weeks we'll get to Knockturn Alley.
Exciting.
There is a small Knockturn Alley. It is my favorite part of Diagon Alley. If you want to, it is just so well done. It is in perpetual darkness. They have a Borgin and Burkes, which anyone who is familiar will know what that is. I will post my Diagon Alley video, the walkthrough I did of Diagon Alley from a little bit ago, that is posted on YouTube. I will post in the comments below, and I will try to remember to post it on the YouTube when I post it on there. I walk through Knockturn Alley in that as well. So I just posted that link right there. So yeah, they do. I love the Knockturn Alley. It's awesome.
I wanted to add, since we're talking about YouTube, I will get back to posting regularly next week. It's been very crazy with me being sick and then my son being sick. I promise I will be more consistent. Also, yeah, if there's any videos that you want specifically Brian and I to be doing when we're in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, we have very different styles. And for me, this will be my first time seeing everything. So this will be kind of first look for me. And Brian has more of that wisdom, having been a few times. So
you should get one of your friends to film you walking into it.
I was gonna ask if there's any suggestions you have for being the chosen one, being like the wand example person. That's like my new dream. That's like my bucket list, is being the chosen wand person. Well,
that's actually a good segue, because they do have an Ollivander's in both parts. Although I'd recommend going in Diagon Alley. For 2 reasons. One, because that's where Ollivander's is supposed to be. And in fact, I'm surprised they didn't close it in Hogsmeade at Islands of Adventure when they opened Diagon Alley. But also the Ollivander's in Diagon Alley has several rooms in it. So there's almost never a wait for it.
So go to the one in Diagon Alley.
Yeah. The one in Hogsmeade only has the one room, so the wait can be, you can wait 15, 20 minutes. The one in Ollivander, in fact, actually the Diagon Alley video I just posted, I go through the Ollivander, so you can see a little bit of it in there. And I walked by. It was busy. I mean, there's a lot of people in there. It was the celebration of Harry Potter weekend, which is an event that Universal does every January. And so Diagon Alley was busy, and there was absolutely all I had to do was wait for the next show. So it was really cool. I've actually never seen the one at Hogsmeade, so I don't know how they compare style wise. I've only ever seen it at Diagon Alley, and I've seen it a couple times there. But the Ollivander's in the movie and that you see in Diagon Alley is in I keep saying Diagon Alley, when I say that, generally I mean Universal Studios. They're pretty close, actually. Obviously in the movie he walks in straight from the outside. You can't do that there. It's because there's multiple rooms. There's kind of an antechamber that has like all the boxes of wands on the walls next to you and everything like that. Then they lead you into a room where there is a person that never actually looks like Ollivander in the movie, but what can you do? But they act very much like him. They're kind of creepy and weird, and they will pick out one or two people from the audience. The one in the video, there's actually two, a brother and sister, because they were the only children in the room, and they tend to pick a child. When my kids did it, they had already bought wands and were both holding them, so they didn't pick them because the little slightly less magical part of this is afterwards you can purchase the wand that has chosen you, because the wand chooses the wizard, as we all know, and if you already have a wand, they're less likely to pick you because they want you to buy one afterwards.
Okay. Brian, here's my game plan.
Yep.
So I know I'm interrupting you, but like this formed in my head and I have to talk about it now. So my friend, he got picked and he's in his 30s, so I feel like there's a little hope for me.
Yeah, it will happen, yeah.
So is it John and Danya are basically telling me that I have to wear a robe and I have to look adorable because they pick young children who are wearing robes. But I'm going to dig up my Hogwarts acceptance letter and I'm going to show it to them and I'm going to find a robe.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to stand there like this.
Honestly, what I would do, it's not as funny as watching you wave your Hogwarts acceptance letter around in a robe, but I would just talk to the team members when you go in. Universal calls their employees team members versus Disney's cast members, in case anybody's wondering.
Okay, let's go.
And just tell them, if it's not busy, if it's crazy crowded, it probably won't matter. You won't get picked. But if it's not, I would just tell the team member, like, hey, any chance like I could get picked, and see what they do. Because a lot of times they can hold you and put you in a room with, other adults, or even just maybe whisper to the Ollivander on duty, like, hey, this one wants to get picked. Now, if there's kids in the room, they probably still won't pick you either way. But if it's not busy, and say you go in a room with another like couple or something like that, then there is a much better chance that you might get picked. Every time I've seen it, it's always been kids, but there's always been kids in there. So I think that's where they go, what they go for. But it's really cool.
It's not as magical.
Yeah. Well, do it.
I mean, then again, my acceptance letter was like made by my cousin, so it's not even a real one.
Still counts.
I mean, it was still sent in the mail, and I didn't know who it was from for like months.
So yeah,
a real one.
But the Ollivander show itself, like, it is kind of like the movie. They give you two wands that don't work, and they say, oh, try to ring that bell up there, and you do it, and bells just ring everywhere. Or the wand boxes start kind of shooting out. They don't shoot all the way out, they pop out like 8 inches and then pop back in and shake around and stuff. Thunderstorm will start. I've seen that. And then, usually the third one that you get, the light will come and it will go, oh, and they're playing the music. The music, we didn't talk about the music. I love the John Williams music in this movie is awesome throughout pretty much the whole area all the time. Yeah. And I find myself, even in the videos, having to not walk around going, because it's just so ingrained in my head at this point. Every once in a while, I'll start whispering that theme around the house, and my daughter will go, why are you whistling, not whispering? And my daughter will go, why are you whistling Harry Potter music? I'm like, I don't know, honestly.
Okay, you guys, if there was a poll where you had to vote for Brian and I to go to Star Wars Land or Galaxy's Edge together, or the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which would you vote for us to go together? Leave your thoughts below. Should Brian and I go to Harry Potter World together or Star Wars Land together?
Why not both? Next summer we'll do both, and we'll take a weekend and do both of them.
It'd be so fun.
But you can, of course, buy. Now, there will be times in this, probably not this week, because there will be spoilers involved. It will probably be towards the end when we start getting when we start not having to be so theme park heavy. I will get real nerdy about Harry Potter. One of the things is the wand lore. Ollivander in this movie, I really, really like the character of Ollivander. He is. Yeah, I do. I don't know why. I love the parts in the books. I love the movies. are fine. I love those parts in the books. When Ollivander, starts talking about how the wand chooses the wizard, that much has always been known. And there's a lot. Wand lore becomes incredibly important for the
Oh
end,
yeah,
end
it's
of
like
this
really
series.
technical.
And it is basically how this whole entire series ends, is through a very marginal wand ownership issue, which sounds terrible, but it's not, I promise.
Well, and it's good that they give you a few books to really
Mhm.
understand it before they kind of like educate you on wand lore,
Yeah.
because you're like, oh my gosh, if I had to learn this right away, I would not keep reading because it gets really technical and
But
rules.
one of the things that Ollivander tells Harry is that the wand that chose him, the core of it is a phoenix. You will meet in the next movie. You will meet that phoenix, in fact, and that phoenix only gave one other feather to another wand, and it is the wand that is owned by Voldemort. So that will become very important later as well, which is why I don't want to talk about it too much. But at the Ollivanders in both theme parks and at different carts all over the place, you can buy wands. This in particular is Hermione Granger's wand. It is the one my daughter bought. My son picked Harry's, which I was a little surprised about. I kind of thought he would go for Voldemort's, knowing him, but he didn't. He went with Harry Potter's wand. My daughter went with Hermione's, which is not a surprise. One of the cool things with this, it is an interactive wand. I don't think it will really show up on here. Oh yeah, well, that little glass ball right at the end there is an RFID
Ooh.
I'm not sure if it transmits or not, but all throughout the both Wizarding Worlds and Universal, they give you this map with it. Now these wands are more expensive. I did not look up the price beforehand, but I want to say they're like $60, $50 in that range. I think the regular ones are like 30 and these are like 50 or 60. Don't quote me on those numbers though. And they give you these maps of the Wizarding Worlds. That one is Hogsmeade. This side is Diagon Alley right there. And what it shows you on there, if you can look, and I don't think you'd be able to see the detail on here.
John said they're about $54.
Oh, 50. Oh, perfect. So I wasn't far off. So right there, you can kind of see in there. Sorry, I'm banging my microphone all over the place, leaning. They have little numbers on them that you may or may not have been able to see in there. That is where they have all the interactive elements of Diagon Alley. Again, that video I posted, I do show one of them happening as people are doing it. But so it's a lot of shop windows, especially in Hogsmeade. It's a lot of shop windows because that one was kind of retrofitted. But you take the wand and you do a spell. For instance, I believe the one that I showed in the video is Aguamenti, which makes water, and you point the wand at this cauldron that's hanging out over the walkway, and you don't have to say Aguamenti, but of course you
Oh,
do,
I would.
and you have to make a certain spell movement, and it is exact. Like you have to do that
Like
spell
swish
movement.
and flick kind of thing?
Yes, like Wingardium Leviosa in this movie, which is a swish and flick. And you do it, and there usually are team members there to help you because it can be tricky, especially for kids. And when you do it, something happens. In the case of that cauldron, it tips over. Or no, I'm sorry, it's not the cauldron. It's an umbrella. And the umbrella, all this rain starts washing over the umbrella and falling onto the sidewalk. And that is a very fun, that my kids loved the interactive wands. If we had bought them earlier, we would have spent so much more time in the Wizarding Worlds because that's all they wanted to do, is go and find every single one of them and do them over and over again. They loved it. It was
Can we take
crazy.
the time to recognize Brian and how accurately he did the swish and
Mhm.
flick when he demonstrated? Like,
You're done
that
right.
was perfect. And if you would like me to, well, like I wasn't going to get a wand anyway, if you would like me to do a wand review and do some demonstrations while I'm there, I would be happy to film that for you and then do like a review when I get home. So let me know if that's something you want to see. If you're going to Harry Potter World and you're thinking about getting a wand, if you want to know if it's worth it, let me know. And I know that Barnes & Noble has wand displays that I thought about buying because I knew I was gonna like buy one anyway. So if you're looking for a way to display it, they have wand displays at Barnes and Noble as well. So let us know if
Yeah.
you want that review.
Yeah, and if Angela doesn't do it, and honestly, maybe if she does, I'm probably going to bring one of the wands and do some of the interactive stuff anyway.
This is why we need to go together.
Yeah.
So fun.
So, all right, we should probably move on since we've been doing this almost an hour already. But the next thing that is very theme park important is the Hogwarts Express. Hogwarts Express is available at Wizarding World. It connects the two sections of the Wizarding World as it does in the movie, where it goes from King's Cross Station in London to Hogsmeade Station. Hogsmeade is a town kind of within walking distance, at least, of Hogwarts. It is an all-wizarding town, Hogsmeade. That was the first area that was built in the Wizarding World in Islands of Adventure, was Hogsmeade Village, and then the castle beyond it. The Hogwarts Express.
Why did they start with Hogsmeade? I always wondered why they built that first.
I think so they could build the castle, would be my guess. Okay. They probably wanted Hogwarts, but needed more than just Hogwarts. And that is, spatially related to Hogwarts, at least. Yeah. So that's my guess as to why they did that one first. But that's just a guess. I don't actually know the answer. The Hogwarts Express is honestly one of my favorite things that they do at any theme park. It is incredible. I also have a video about that, which I will link in just a minute. But it is almost exactly as you see it in the movie. The station itself is a little bit different, and things like that. But the way the train looks, the way the train compartments look, the things you see out the window, they are video screens instead of actual windows. And they show you parts of the movie. They show you different scenery. It makes it look like you're going from one park to the other. It's really, really incredible. The only, well, I would say downside for us, upside for Universal, it was a brilliant move. They require a park-to-park ticket to get on it because you are going between parks. So you have to buy the park-to-park ticket. And if you're going for the Harry Potter stuff, I strongly, strongly recommend I strongly recommend you getting the park-to-park ticket just so you can ride the Hogwarts Express. And as I saw somebody say in here, Don, it is a different show basically each way. So when you're going from King's Cross Station to Hogsmeade, you'll see one thing out the window, and coming back, you'll see something else. Yeah, and it's not just the window. Actually, what closes the compartment on the other side of the window is what looks like frosted glass, and that's actually a video screen as well. So you will see shadows of Harry and Ron and Hermione. You'll see the witch pushing the treat cart, just like you see in Sorcerer's Stone, the movie. You will see Dementors, which we will not get to for a month or so.
So it really is a ride.
It is an attraction, 100%.
Oh.
Yeah, and Sarah asked about motion sickness. No, it is a very, very slow train. If you don't get sick on like the tram from the parking lot to the Magic Kingdom, say, you will not get sick on this. Like, it's that level of thrill. What was I going to say? I completely lost my thought.
She should focus one day on each park, or if she should do park to park during her 2 days. And you've said going park to park because of the Hogwarts Express might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, if you were focused on the Harry Potter stuff, then I would say you almost have to get the park to park just to ride the Hogwarts Express. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it all. As far as logistically, it really doesn't matter. We do have on Touring Plans. We do have touring plans for a 2-day, 2-park plan where you start the morning in one park and then do the afternoon in the other, and then switch that for the second day. So you could do something like that. You could just focus.
What I'll do.
Yeah, you could just focus one day on all the Potter stuff, and then the second day on the non-Potter stuff in both parks, and then go back to the Potter stuff because it is best thing. There are some really good attractions at Universal, but the the Wizarding World stuff is 50% better than everything else Universal does, in my opinion. But
wow, Brian, that's quite the claim.
yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily attraction based, just land based. You know, like
Oh yeah.
the aesthetic of it is so much better than anything else. Universal is just attraction wise. Universal and Disney are probably pretty even. The theme and feel of the parks and operations of the parks, Universal is still kind of learning that. They haven't been doing it as long as Disney, and I think the Wizarding Worlds were their first real go at an immersive theme park experience, which they did great at. So, yeah, I think. Let's see. What else do I have? They also mentioned they talk about the candy. Harry in Sorcerer's Stone, Harry is introduced to the chocolate frogs that actually jump, and Bertie Bott's every flavor beans, both of which you can buy in the Wizarding World. The chocolate frogs are not real frogs; they do not jump out, but they look just like they do in the movie. Yeah, I've tried Bertie Bott's as well. They are pretty gross. So yeah, let's see. Oh boy, I still have a lot on here to get through, to be honest with you. I'll try to go quick. Sorting. They go into the Great Hall at Hogwarts. Hogwarts in general, you see a lot of in this movie. You see the portraits that move, the staircases that move, the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey attraction, which is inside Hogwarts Castle at Hogsmeade, at Islands of Adventure. The queue is fantastic. I don't love the ride much, mostly because, as we talked about motion sickness before, if you are even a little bit prone to motion sickness, Forbidden Journey is a monster. I cannot do it. I did it twice just because first time I wanted to experience it. The second time I wanted to see if I could do it on Dramamine. Turns out even that was not enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't know if I can do it then.
Yeah, I would recommend I would say maybe try towards the end of the day. So it doesn't at least, ruin your day. It's a fine attraction. Some people love it, even without the motion sickness. I don't, it's a lot of, it takes you to different parts that you look at a screen and stuff happens, which I'm not 100% against by any means, but I didn't find it as engaging. I like Escape from Gringotts, the ride that's in Diagon Alley, much, much better.
What can you compare it to at Disney-wise for motion sickness?
Oh, there's nothing. That makes me more motion sick than any other ride I've ever been on. Somebody asked about Flight of Passage. Yeah, I can do Flight of Passage. No Dramamine, no nothing, without any problem. I cannot do Forbidden Journey. But the queue for that attraction is amazing. When I do go back in August, I'm going to do some videos in Hogsmeade. One of them, I'm hoping to do a full video of walking through the queue, because a lot of times they will kind of let you go through it and not intending to do the attraction, only when it's not busy. So I'm hoping to get a little lucky there, but they will take you on, what's the castle tour, I believe they call it, where you can kind of walk next to the queue and, see the whole thing without actually having to ride. So I'm going to try to do that.
John said the castle tour is gone.
It is officially gone, but they will still occasionally let you do it. The park has to be, the ride has to be not busy at all. And even then you kind of have to, confund the team member working, I think, I'm going full out with Harry Potter terms now, but so it can still kind of be done. If worst comes to worst, I'll just wait in the line when it gets long enough that I'll have enough time in each room, and then when I get to the end, I'll just take the chicken exit and leave. But the attraction is somebody asked if it's worse than Mission Space. I was only ever on the spinny mission space one, and that put me down for the rest of the day. Forbidden Journey
Yeah.
did not. So no, it's probably not that bad. That's a good point. I forgot about that one. Mission Space Orange is the worst attraction I've ever been on for motion sickness. Forbidden Journey is second.
Can't do it.
So,
Well, I
but
think that will stop.
but
Sorry,
the
Brian. I didn't
castle.
want to
No,
interrupt, but
I'm sorry. What do we have? Yeah, now the rest of it we can talk about some other time. One thing I did want to bring up right at the end, the way that, and this is in the book and in the movie, Dumbledore assigning random points to Gryffindor so that they win the House Cup drives me insane every single time.
Yeah. When he's like, the best game of chess played ever. If I was the other students and I'm like, he got 50 points for playing chess. Really? Like, I play every night in my dorm room. I don't get anything.
Then that tied them up, and then Neville getting 10 points for standing up to his friends just to put them over the top. Like, I mean, that was
Slytherin, I'd be evil just for that reason.
That was a little bit of a Dumbledore as Machina if I ever saw one. But
no, but is there anything else from the film that we wanted to talk about? Because we can talk about the theme park. Oh my gosh, we can talk about the theme park for the next few months. But we only really got to the Sorting Hat with the book and the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the things that are introduced that will be important. There is Harry's invisibility cloak that he finds out was his father. That
and
somebody
gave
out
of a demi-guise, which was introduced in Fantastic Beasts, and where to find them.
Yes, the monkey-like creature that could disappear, but and then at the end it turns out that they go through, and yeah, this is a much more rushed version than I had kind of hoped to do this, but
we'll put
I knew this would be
YouTube version, so you can just kind of skip to whatever part you want to listen to.
But the what was I gonna say here? Forbidden Forest. We go into the Forbidden Forest in this, not for the last time. We can talk more about that in the next movie because they are building an attraction around the Forbidden Forest at Universal Studios, opening next year. But I think it's going to be a little more centered around what happens in there in the Chamber of Secrets. So we might as well leave that for next time.
Their version of like a haunted mansion type scary attraction.
From what I hear, it almost sounds like it might be more like stylistically, like kind of like Seven Doors Mine Train, in where it's part roller coaster, part like dark experience kind of ride, where it speeds up and slows down and speeds up kind of thing. That's what I've been hearing so far. But yeah, like I said, I think that's going to be more about what happens in Chamber of Secrets, so we can talk about that later. So the end of this movie and book, the three our three heroes will be what was I gonna? Sorry, this is what happens when I try to read comments and talk at the same time. It never works out very well. But they find themselves almost in a maze of sorts to get to the Sorcerer's Stone, where each room was created by a different Hogwarts professor as a way to stop people from getting to the Sorcerer's Stone. They get past Fluffy, the three-headed dog, put there by Hagrid, the Devil's Snare, presumably put there by Professor Sprout. Although we don't meet Professor Sprout in this movie, do we? I think that's
not until next movie.
Yeah, next movie we meet the herbology Professor Sprout. There is the enchanted keys that Harry has to catch using a broomstick to Professor McGonagall's. There is a mountain troll put there by Professor Quirrell, although it's already down when they get to it. Oh no, the keys aren't. The keys are Professor Flitwick. That's the charms element. The enchanted chessboard is McGonagall's, where it is giant-sized chess pieces, and they have to play a game of chess. And Ron gets knocked out pretty good in it. Yeah, Ron is a very good chess player, which there's his contribution.
That was
playing
good
chess.
acting on his part too. He did a really good job in that scene. And then, which was not shown in the film, but there was a potions aspect, which would have been Professor Snape.
That's what Angela was talking about earlier, that you could play on the original DVD and apparently on Pottermore, seeing the comments. And then you get to the end, and what he finds is, Professor Quirrell, who we find out during the scene is possessed by Voldemort. Or who shall not be named, but as we know, fear of the name is fear of the thing. So we are going to say his name proudly here. Yeah, I can quote Dumbledore for a long time. Although Dumbledore is another character that I'm going to have comments on as we get through this. We may, after we're done with this, we may have to do a wrap up where I just, or I may have to, where I just vent about different characters. I love Dumbledore most of the time, but yeah, we'll get to it. And then the Mirror of Erised is there, which is desire spelled backwards. No, this is something that Harry, when he finds his invisibility cloak, he stumbles upon, and it shows you what you want most in the world. For Harry, it shows him his family, his mother and father with him, because it's something he never knew. He drags Ron to see it. Ron sees himself as head boy and lifting the house cup and the Quidditch cup and
being special.
Yeah, because Ron comes from a family of what are there, seven? 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 kids. So he wants, and he's the second to last of them. And the last one is Ginny, who is a girl. So he's the last of the boys. So he always gets hand-me-downs. He always gets, so he wants to be special. The mirror will give you the Sorcerer's Stone, but as Dumbledore explains later, they will only give it to you if you will not use it. Yeah. Which is a pretty impressive bit of magic, but also makes Harry completely useless in this whole plot, because there is no way Quirrell / Voldemort would have gotten the Sorcerer's Stone out of the mirror. They couldn't anyway. The only way it came out was when Harry came and stood in front of it, and then he got it. So if Harry just didn't ever show up, Quirrell would have just been standing in that room with nothing to do.
Yeah, they had no idea it was in his pocket either.
Yeah, they kind of Indiana Jones this one, right? where Indiana, it's one of the things, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, well, just Raiders of the Lost Ark, but Indiana Jones was completely useless in that movie. He didn't do anything, didn't stop anything. It was the Ark itself did it. So, but also with theme park ties, and
it's true.
But this is kind of like that. Harry didn't need to be there at all.
Oh my gosh, Brian! I don't know how many cups of coffee you've had, but I can't keep up with you anymore. I've been sleep deprived for 5 nights now.
This is Harry. This is my wheelhouse. Yeah. So
you're getting really worked up. No, but what you'll notice is will be really important later is that Harry was able to touch Professor Quirrell and basically kind of burn him alive or burn his face when he touched him. And the reason being is he was protected by his mother's love, because his mother died to save him. Yes. Hi, Hedwig. How you doing? This is Harry's owl that Brian stole.
This is also my daughter's. Yeah. So no, this was part of when I was talking about Diagon Alley. I was going to talk about some of the merch, but I didn't get to.
When I start talking, you pull out the owl? I feel a little disrespected right now.
I'll put him down.
Anyway, so yeah, he's protected by his mother's love, and that's how he was able to kind of, defeat Professor Quirrell. So that is something that is definitely important. So hold on to that for future books and movies. Yeah,
like the wand lore, that is ancient magic that we will explore in later movies, because it comes up. It will come up a lot.
Good Steve.
But
around book 4. Is that battery?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was it's a puppet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my god.
There's a little thing inside that you can turn his head around. Yeah, look
at his face. He's so happy to show me this owl. Look at him. Look at him.
I only bring it up because we didn't mention Hedwig. And Hedwig is Harry's snowy owl that I can't say exactly what I'm thinking at the moment, but is with Harry in every single book.
Hedwig is one of those characters that you don't expect to love.
Yeah.
But you do.
Yeah.
You just grow to love Hedwig.
Yes, you do. And it, well, there's a lot that I feel like we're going to end up having to do an addendum after the 7th one. Because in the 7th one, I'm going to I'm glad the movies are split up because then maybe we can get to everything I want to say in both of
Oh my
those because
gosh.
I have a lot of opinions about, everything. So,
But I
yeah,
think this
and
is a
John
good
points out
time.
these are
Oh,
basically the Wizarding World's version of the Banshees.
oh,
This and the
yes.
Wand are just the, Butterbeer, which will come up later. I mean, there's so much stuff, marketable stuff from these movies that are all
Oh yeah.
available for purchase in the theme parks. But I
And
think we
owls
should,
deliver mail too.
I think we should probably wrap this up at some point. It has been a
But
long
I'm
time.
giving you
So
guys homework. I'm giving you homework for next time. If you have not, and if you'd like, your homework is to go to Pottermore and take the Sorting Hat quiz.
mhm.
And then for our next Harry Potter live, to tell us what house you were sorted into. I'm gonna do that as well. I didn't get to this week because my son has been sick, but I will do that. And
I've done it
next week,
several times, and you would never guess what house I'm in.
well, spoiler, we know what house Brian's in. Next week will be a Harry Potter or a Disney chat because I know we haven't done
Mhm.
one of those in a while. So send your questions when we promote that next week. And yeah, in 2 weeks we'll talk about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So take that Sorting Hat quiz on Pottermore. We will upload this to YouTube and have timestamps because I know we covered a lot. And we will talk to you next week.
Ah, spiders.
Brian, spoiler, come on.